Alright, so today we've got a Etha 2 the customer sent in because they said the ASA was leaking, which is a really straightforward fix, but when I gassed this gun up, I didn't have an ASA leak on it. So I'm going to go ahead and gas it up again and see what we got going on. I was able to get it to leak, but it was not coming from the ASA. So let's do this real quick. Let's turn it on, and we'll put it into dry fire, and we'll see one shot, and then we start getting a leak. Now I can, maybe if the grips were on, because I already took the grips off, you might think or hear the leak kind of manifesting down in here, but it's not coming from there. It's coming from the solenoid area. And on this gun, the Etha 2, and any of the others that use the same, and you see it just sealed up right there, and now it's shooting. And that's what the customer was saying, that they would shoot, they would degas it and then regas it, and the leak would go away and they'd be able to shoot some more, and then it would start to leak. And that's a pretty common problem with this kind of setup right here in these guns that has this particular spool setup in there. And so they do give you all the parts that you need as far as doing something to service that. And so we're going to go ahead and show you what to do. If you've got an Etha 2 like this, or a 170R, or even it can happen, I believe, in like the CS2s, you just got to change out the O-rings on your spool, your solenoid spool, and it's really easy to do. They provide all the O-rings for you in your parts kit right there, so that's not an issue as far as having the particular or the correct O-rings, because you do need some very specific O-rings to do this, but those are in your parts kit that are in your gun. Now, if you've bought this gun or this style gun, whatever happens to be used, you might not have those parts, and so you would need to buy them. They do sell the parts kit. You can buy it specifically for the gun. We do sell them here for the Etha 2 or the 170 or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, it's gonna be really easy to take care of. We'll show you how to do it. I'm gonna open up my parts kit over here that I have. Even though I'm sure the parts kit the customer sent back is probably in there, but I'm not going to use their O-rings. I'm going to turn the gun off. I'm going to disconnect the solenoid right here. And then I'm going to push these two brass pins out from the other side. They only go one direction, so make sure you push from the small side. And then we can just kind of lift this up and out. So we've got this part out. And this is really all we need to worry about right here. So we've got our spool assembly and body over here, and then our pilot valve here. We're going to remove the pilot valve off by taking these two screws off the side. And then we can lift that off. We need to come out a little further on this one. And just set that down to the side right there. Now there's a plate that's on the back side right here. We need to remove that plate. So we're going to take that off as well. These two screws. And we're going to pull that off. There is an O-ring that's on the bottom of this plate. So make sure if it sticks to the body right here to take it off and put it back with the plate. And then from here we can push our solenoid spool out. I'm going to push from this side. I'm going to grab it and pull it out right here. Now this will only go in correctly one way. It goes in this side, but this is not the side that it actually goes in. You can see this giant hole over here. We want to make sure that that's the side we put it in. When we go to reassemble, we're going to come in from this side. It should fit all the way down in there like that. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of clean up the inside of this one. Take a Q-tip, clean out any old grease that happens to be in there, and any foreign substances that might be inside there. So we're going to get that out. Then I'm going to reapply some fresh grease to the inside. Don't be shy when you put that in there. Now we're going to remove our O-rings. So for this particular spool assembly, we're using 2 different O-ring sizes. There are 3 O-rings. 2 of them are the same. So the front 2 right here are the same size. The rear one is a different size. The rear, the larger one, is a 6x1. So 6x1 O-ring. All right, so that's a very specific one right there. It's a metric size O-ring. These front 2 are special seals for Planet Eclipse spools, and they are known as a number 6 spool O-ring. Now an O-ring like this one, this 6x1, is completely round like this, but it is also round in its circumference. So around the actual piece, like this is round this way as well as round this way, if that makes sense. These number 6 spool seals, think of if somebody took this round O-ring and then they flattened it, they squashed it, and it flattened like a pancake. Well, that's how these seals are. So the front 2 seals, these number 6 spool seals, are flat as well as round. So they are flat this way. If we were to take it and squish it, it's flat, but it's still round like that. It's just pancaked. So we're going to remove these 2. The easiest way I've seen to remove these without damaging the spool, you don't want to stick a pick in there and like gouge it out or anything, is I pinch it. And you can see I've pinched the O-ring and it's kind of poking out right there. Now I can get my pick underneath it, and I'm not digging it out. I'm not scratching the spool shaft in any way. I'm just getting that O-ring off of there. And then the same thing for the number, or the 6x1. Take that off. All right, so now we're going to put a new 6x1 on the back. Right there. Then we're going to put these number 6 spool seals on the front. Now, since they are flat, when we put them on, you have to make sure that they don't twist. If you just smash them on there, they could rotate and twist and not sit in their groove properly, because this groove is very deep because of how flat these are. So we do have to make sure that we get our O-ring on properly. So I kind of I pushed it over flat so that it would go into its place, but now I'm going to go all the way around it and I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to visually verify that this O-ring is sitting properly inside there and hasn't pinched or rotated or had any problems. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. The next one, though, I have to get over this one. So I'm going to just pop it over. So now it's floating in between right here. And there's a little piece of Teflon that I probably picked up off of my mat here. Make sure that doesn't go in there. And then I'm going to start on one side and set it into its groove. And then I'm going to come around it and get the rest of it into its place. Being very careful not to damage that O-ring in any way. And then again, I'm going to go around and I'm going to make sure that it hasn't rotated, that it's not pinched or buckled or anything. These two, you have to be very careful with when you put them in. This one is just an O-ring, you just snap it on. All right, so now I'm gonna get some grease on my finger. Juice up those O-rings. And then I'm gonna slide that in. I'm going to take my plate, I'm going to put it back, make sure my O-ring is in the right spot. So there's a couple different sets of screw holes on here. The plate has 2 little posts on it towards the top right here, and there's 2 extra little holes in there. So that kind of indexes the plate to put it in the right spot, so that you don't flip it upside down or put it on the wrong way or anything like that. It makes it so that it goes in properly. So we're going to put that on there. Take our 2 screws. When you're putting these screws in or out, make sure you're using a screwdriver that is the appropriate size for the head. That way you don't strip it out. So you're using one that's the right size. It's very important for small screws like this. Alright, so that goes on there. Now our pilot valve, and that has the same thing. It's got 2 little nubs, and there's 2 little holes right there. We'll put that on, put the little hole or nubs in the holes, and then get that down. I'm not going to tighten up that screw yet until I get the other one down as well. I don't want to load one side without having both of them down there. So just make sure it screws on even. And I'm not going to over tighten these ones. I'm just going to make them snug and call it a day. The bottom right here where there's a large hole, I'm going to put a little extra grease in there. That's what connects with this tube that's right here. So that tube slots up into there and transfers the air coming from your regulator up and into here. So then we can drop this down into place, making sure that our wiring is in the right spot. And push that down. I'm going to put my posts back. I'm going to reconnect my wiring. I'm going to put my body back on. And then when I go to gas this up, I'm going to gas it and degas it many times. So I want to make sure that it's not something else causing this issue. If you just gas it up once or twice and it seems to work, then you're like, okay, great. Well, you never quite know. So that's on. I'm going to find my barrel muffler, which is gone. Somebody ran off with it. There's one right there, above the drills. Thank you. That way it's not crazy loud. Take my tank. Put that on. Let's turn her on. Turn the eyes off. So we're gassed up, no leaks. No leaks. We're gonna... And that's kind of it right there. So that's what we're gonna do, and we'll just do that a bunch more times. But that's with this leak, which is very common in this gun, and a lot of different versions that use the same kind of solenoid or pilot valve spool setup. Very easy to fix. It's usually just 3 O-rings like that. You can do it in a couple minutes and get your gun back up and running. See you next time.